Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from downtown Baton Rouge, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from our studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Jacob back, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Plenty to do. We're working towards the weekend here on this Thursday. It's going to be heavy on guests in the second hour. Generally speaking, I don't do that all the time. It was just what worked for everybody that we're talking to today. So we'll talk to Luke Johnson from Saints Camp at 2 o'clock. We'll talk to Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, at 2:15. He'll be on the call tonight. Tonight he'll be there for the coaches show. Saturday night he'll be on the call of LSU and Louisiana Tech. And on the public address on Saturday night inside Tiger Stadium, the new PA address of Tiger Stadium, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. Dixon McMakin is going to be with us at 2:30. So fired up for all three of those conversations in the second hour. You get a lot of me in the first hour. I'm going to give you my NFL picks as that season gets underway coming up this evening. Josh Thompson, I thought, had some really good sound yesterday as we talked to four different players. So we'll hear from Josh Thompson at 1:30. Jay Johnson's getting a pay raise, so are two of his assistants. I'll briefly discuss that as well. But let's get things started the way we do every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Let's talk about wide receiver, shall we? This is a position group that I felt entering fall camp had a lot of options, a lot of skill sets, and one football. And I felt like entering fall camp, I kind of liked Nick Anderson as LSU's leading receiver. His skill set was different than everyone else's. He had massive production at Oklahoma. Figured he would be healthy, and that was my pick. I don't think it's a very good pick. And that was in July, and I have the right to change my mind over the course of time, and did, but I had Nick Anderson in July. After about 3 weeks of August, I said, okay, Chris Hilton's the guy. Chris Hilton looks great. He is a deep threat. We know this. He's going to make chunk plays. We know this. I also think he's really good in the intermediate game. They're going to get him the ball in the screen game as well. I think Chris Hilton's going to lead this team in receiving. And one of my bold predictions for the season was Chris Hilton having over 1,000 yards. And then we play one game, and now I'm like, well, Aaron Anderson's probably going to lead the team in receiving. We had a station survey 3 weeks ago, and I gave Chris Hilton as my answer for LSU's leading receiver. Aaron Anderson was the most selected player as he was LSU's leading returning receiver. But Aaron Anderson wasn't practicing a lot, and I felt like, well, the things that Aaron Anderson does really well, like you can let Barian Brown do some of that for sure. You can let Kyle Parker do some of that for sure. Like, I think they've got some options. Xavier Thomas can do some of those things. And I thought that Chris Hilton's skill set kind of separated himself a little bit, and maybe he was the guy. But the point of this timeline that I'm laying out is that there are just a lot of dudes they can get the football to. And I think it's going to be very interesting to watch this play out. Now, catches and targets are a little bit fickle. They depend on coverages. They depend on play design. They depend on the read from Garrett Nussmeier. They depend on the offensive line holding up. Like, yeah, over time you can draw long conclusions from them, but in the moment, in a short sample size, they can tell some lies. What doesn't really lie is the rotation. Like, that's something that is intentional, is independent of anything that goes on during the play, doesn't have to account for penalties. It's just who the staff put out there. So I wanted to start with the rotation that we saw in the game on Saturday. LSU played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wide receivers in the game. This is according to Pro Football Focus. The leader in snap counts, and keep in mind LSU ran 75 offensive plays. The receiver that played the most snap counts, he didn't play all of them at receiver, but was out there the most, was out there for 44 of the 75 snaps. That's Xavier Thomas. Now, obviously, he was involved in the run game as well, but he was out there the most. If you would have told me that on August 1st, I would not have believed it. Second was Barryon Brown. Barryon Brown played 37 of the 75 snaps, so less than half. Only one wide receiver played more than half the snaps. That's Xavier Thomas, who played some running back. Very little, but some. Aaron Anderson was third. He was a leading receiver. He had 99 yards in the game, but he was third. He played 35 snaps. Then you've got Kyle Parker with 26, Nick Anderson with 24, Chris Hilton with 24, and then Destin Hill with 2 before he broke his hand. So they did rotate liberally at wide receiver. You were not seeing a situation where on 75 offensive snaps, on 66 of them, a wide receiver was out there. They varied that greatly. And the question I have about that, which we won't get an answer for another month really, is that something they're going to do early in the season? Or is that something they're going to do all season? The answer may come because they feel like they found their top 4 guys, or because they feel like they've got to get everybody involved. This is not apples to apples. I want to be very clear. This is not apples to apples because the rotation wasn't because of the same thing, but it is the same head coach and just 1 year removed. Last year at safety, LSU was rotating a lot early in the season. You were seeing Jordan Gilbert. You were seeing Sage Ryan. You were seeing Kylan Jackson. You were seeing Deshaun Spears. Major Burns. You were seeing a lot of different guys. And you saw that in the USC game, and you saw that against Nichols, and you saw it against UCLA. And eventually, you got to the bye week. And Ole Miss was next. And it was Major Burns, Jordan Gilbert, Sage Ryan, kids, sit down. Now, they were looking for answers at safety last year. So again, this is not apples to apples. But you saw a very clear decision that was made that here's who's going to play and here's who's not. And I'm curious if after a month of play this year, if you're not going to see this rotation. I mean, I don't know how much Destin Hill was going to play. I doubt he was going to play 24 snaps. But if you count the guys that played 24 of 75 snaps, that's 6 guys. And that does not include Trey'Dez Green, who does occupy a little bit of that same space on the field, right? So what do we think that number's going to be by the time you play Alabama in November? Do we think Aaron Anderson's going to play less than half the snaps in that game? Do you think Nick Anderson's going to play, I guess in this case, that's about a third of the snaps? I think it's interesting to monitor, and I think we find very little in the way of answers this week in Southeastern, because I think against Tech, because I think everybody's going to play. But I think once you get to Oxford, once South Carolina comes to town, I think you do get those answers. Let's look at targets. And again, I think that targets are a little bit deceiving in a small sample size because so much can vary them. But you look at targets among the players that had a reception. Aaron Anderson, 8. Barryon Brown, 6. Xavier Thomas, 2. Chris Hilton, 1. Kyle Parker, 1. Aaron Anderson clearly was a focal point in the passing game. Barryon Brown, clearly a focal point in the passing game. And then you go to Xavier Thomas with just 2, Chris Hilton with just 1, Kyle Parker with just 1. That's not intent to get those guys the ball a significant amount of time. Of course, Hilton's target was the 4th down. Xavier Thomas made a nice play over the middle when he came out over on a dig route. And then you saw Kyle Parker, who caught a ball over the middle when Nussmeier escaped the pocket, and it was on about his 3rd read going across the middle of the field. So the plays that were deliberately designed for players, it felt like Anderson and Brown were very much the 2 focal points. I think it's reasonable to expect that those 2 guys garner a large share of what LSU's trying to do in the passing game. I think that's reasonable. I'm a little bit surprised at Hilton's lack of production still. But I think he would be next on my list. I don't know what Nick Anderson's role is going to be on this team. And again, I'm admitting I was dead wrong in July saying that's going to be LSU's number one receiver. I'd be flatline stunned if that's the case now. I still think when it comes to Nick Anderson that he brings something that none of the other receivers do. That's a 6'3" frame with that speed and ability to stretch the field. So I'm not here saying, well, this guy's just not very good. I don't think they're going to play him. I'm just basing it on practice when he never ran with the first team, the snaps in the first game where he's significantly less than a lot of the guys, and then the targets in this game where he had none. So this, again, I'm not drawing sweeping conclusions from one game. This is a game where it felt like the plan offensively in the passing game was going to be to keep things around the line of scrimmage. And to keep things around the line of scrimmage, that limits Clemson's pass rush against what could be a compromised offensive line. I think they planned to play the game that way. And if you look at the guys that got a lot of snaps, it's the guys who are going to play around the line of scrimmage in tight quarters. It's Xavier Thomas, Barryon Brown, Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker. Those are your smaller, shiftier receivers who can play around the line. Chris Hilton's not one of your smaller, shiftier receivers. He's one of your faster receivers. Nick Anderson's not one of your shiftier receivers. So this makes sense when you look at the game plan LSU had. But I believe LSU's going to force the ball down the field this year. They've got a quarterback that likes to do it, and they got plenty of playmakers to do it. You probably need to do it when you trust your offensive line a little bit more entering the game. And I don't know how much they did back on Saturday. So I'll be monitoring this. I'll be watching this. I think it's fascinating. I think LSU has a lot of options. And I think you're going to see the options play out game to game based on the matchup and the skill sets they want to use. I think it's a luxury, not an obligation, to get a lot of guys on the field. We'll see. Again, you're not going to learn a lot against Louisiana Tech. But you will at the end of September and throughout the month of October. And I'm curious about it because I don't have a set-in-stone answer for you. But it'll be something that we monitor week to week here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Our Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about what we heard at LSU player interviews. No, never mind. When we come back, I want to talk about Jay Johnson's Rays. We're going to talk about player interviews at 1:30. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. It's an amazing experience to work with the folks at Genesis and to drive a Genesis. Their staff is top-notch. You're not going to feel pressured. You're not going to feel taken advantage of or upsold. You're just going to feel like they're helping you. You're a guest, not a customer at their dealership. The actual showroom and the store is state-of-the-art. No expense was spared. It's a phenomenal place to spend a little bit of time. But you don't have to go for your service. You don't have to go to get your car because they'll handle it valet. 3 years, complimentary valet maintenance when you purchase a new vehicle. If you'd like to test drive a car without going to the dealership, you can do that. They'll come to you. It's part of the customer service. You decide this is what I wanted to get into, awesome. They'll bring the car to you, e-contracts, delivery. You never set foot on the lot. If that's the way you prefer to live, it's kind of a delivery society these days. They can have you do that at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's a luxury brand. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price. That is the Genesis model. So get by and see them, airline at PQ, or don't. Just contact them at GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Y'all purchase food every week, right? And a lot of times you're raising your eyebrow at the old receipt these days. I get it. I was talking to my guy Sean Sagrera earlier today up at Sagrera Farm, and he was talking to me about supply and demand in the country in regards to beef right now. We're talking about lowest inventories since the 1950s in the United States of America right now. And because of that, along with a demand that goes with beef, because everybody wants to eat beef, it's part of their diet,
You're talking about prices up 20% in a lot of places. Some places upwards of 26%. That's not going to be the case at Sagrera Farms. They haven't touched their prices in 3 years. They have no plans to. If you're looking for consistent pricing, if you're looking for consistent beef, which, oh, by the way, is in the top 1% of the beef nationwide, Sagrera Farms needs to be an option for you. It's just buying your beef a different way. You don't have to ask questions about where the beef came from or how the beef was handled. You don't have to ask questions about the quality of the beef. It's consistent. It speaks for itself every time you go see Sean on the farm. It's just buying beef a different way, and it's, quite frankly, a better way to do it. So go see Sean. It's just up the road, 30 miles in Ethel from Baton Rouge. You can have some of the top 1% of the beef nationwide. You don't have to constantly worry about staring at the price tag. You go up there, you handle the pricing with Sean, you bring a load of beef back to the house, side, whole cow, you got it in the freezer. So when you want ground beef, you got it. When you want steaks, you got it. You want to make flank steak, skirt steak, chuck roast, you got it. It's just a different way to purchase your beef. If you've never considered it, check out my guy Sean Sagrera and Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. Wilson Alexander over at The Advocate reported earlier today that there are 3 pay bumps coming to the LSU baseball coaching staff that will be approved tomorrow by the LSU Board of Supervisors. Jay Johnson set to become the highest paid baseball coach in the country. His annual salary will be north of $3 million. In addition to Jay Johnson's salary increasing, you're talking about Josh Jordan, LSU's Director of Operations and Recruiting Coordinator, who will get a pay raise. That's going to go from about $400,000 to $450,000 over the next 3 seasons. And Josh Simpson, who has been integral in LSU's player development over there at LSU, will have his pay bumped about $50,000 to $255,000 through the 2027 season. I know that a lot of folks who follow baseball or who follow college sports aren't completely concerned with what the coaches are making. That doesn't necessarily impact you unless they leave. So the actual numbers of the salary are inconsequential to a lot of people that are listening. Some are curious and want to know, and you pass that along there. It's public university, public record. You can find that kind of stuff. But to me, this is just LSU committing further to the best baseball program in the country. Jay Johnson, since he has gotten to LSU, has cranked the machine back into full gear. You're all very well aware of that. They've won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. But what LSU is doing by committing these resources to these coaches is keeping them in Baton Rouge in some instances. Josh Jordan was the front runner for the Duke job. If you forgot all this that went on in June, Duke had a really nice year. They won the Athens Regional. Then they got beat in the Super on their home field by Cinderella. And at that point, Duke's head coach took the open job at Virginia when Virginia's head coach headed to Mississippi State. It's a lot of chain reactions, but Duke's job came open. And Josh Jordan worked at Duke for over a decade. And they wanted him to be the head coach there. And part of the reason, not the whole reason, there are things that Duke does to run its baseball program that LSU would never do. But part of it is he's very well paid to be at LSU. And he's not the pitching coach, and he's not the hitting coach, but he makes now $450,000 a year to recruit and to help with player development. He's integral in working with the catchers. There's a whole process, analytics that Jamie Tutko kind of spearheads over there that Jordan's very involved in. And he's a big piece to what LSU does. And an ACC program, fresh off of a super regional bid, where they were upset at the end of the game there on their home field, he didn't leave. And that's an awesome thing because y'all are well aware of this, I'm confident, that Jay Johnson's staff has been poached every year he's been at LSU. He is his first season at LSU. Tigers make a regional, played really well late in that season. Jason Kelly, the pitching coach, goes to Washington. Dan Fitzgerald, the recruiting coordinator, director of development, ends up at Kansas, where he was the Big 12 Coach of the Year last year. So you hire Wes Johnson, you win a national championship. He goes to Georgia as the head coach in Athens. Also, what I think fewer people were cognizant of at that point, Brent Herrick, who was the director of operations, took the head coaching job at Nichols. Terry Rooney was director of player development at LSU for a year. Paul Maneri took the South Carolina job, took Rooney with him. And like, you've had to rebuild this coaching staff year over year. Now Nate Yeske's back. Mark Wannick has always been with Jay Johnson. And you now are assured that Josh Jordan and Josh Simpson will be back. So is Jamie Tutko. So the band is staying together for another year, which is awesome because this is a machine in terms of player development. You look at the freshmen they've brought in that have made strides, unbelievable. You look at the transfers they brought in that have made strides, it's unbelievable. You know the names. But like Cade Anderson's development, ridiculous over 2 years. Homegrown player. But so was Anthony Ionson's. He was here for 10 months. You saw Kason Evans blossom into a star as a freshman. Just a first year at LSU. But in the same way, I think what you saw defensively from Luis Hernandez was sensational based on what I watched in the fall and the fact that he didn't really play catcher at his previous stop and he was playing at that level at the end of the year. Josh Jordan's a big part of that. And so it goes without saying to a point that, hey, like, keeping coaches around when you're winning is a good thing. And Jay Johnson's proven he can go hire the next guy. Nick Saban always had to hire the next guy. And so you have confidence that Jay Johnson can do that because he's running the show. But keeping the continuity in the coaching staff is a huge positive for the program. They're replacing a lot off of last year's team. Actually, not as much as they were this time last year, but it's a lot. And having that group intact, taking care of them financially, and making sure this baseball program continues to hum is a big, big deal. Because no doubt, teams are going to continue, and baseball programs are going to continue to look to LSU to hire their next coach. It's proven successful in too many places. Georgia's program is much better under Wes Johnson than it was previous to that. Much better. They've been in the national seed picture the last 2 years. They hadn't gotten to Omaha, but week in, weekend out, they've been better. Kansas is way better than they were before Dan Fitzgerald got there. Now, Jason Kelly left Washington and became the head pitching coach at Texas A&M, but like there is something in Jay Johnson's work that translates to the next guy. And the same way that Alabama was a tree that everybody wanted to pick off for a decade and a half, that's going to be the case in Baton Rouge. So it's great to see LSU, commit to Jay Johnson, obviously, but that's an obvious one. Everyone is aware that Jay Johnson needs to be in Baton Rouge, and that's got to be a long-term deal. Making him the highest paid coach is a no-brainer over Tony Vitello and anybody else. He's the best. But I want to take an opportunity to look at the assistants that are getting a pay raise and go, keep those guys around too. Because whatever they're doing over there at the box right now is working. So keep all those wheels in motion as long as you possibly can. We know that LSU commits to baseball. We know that LSU prioritizes baseball. It does it in a number of ways, but this is just one of them, paying coaches. You got to make sure that happens. So I was thrilled to see Wilson Alexander's report in The Advocate. You can read about it at theadvocate.com. I've got a story up on LouisianaSports.net that goes into the assistants a little bit more deeply. Wilson's got the terms of the contract a little bit more closely monitored. And you can check out when that goes finalized at the Board of Supervisors meeting tomorrow when they rubber stamp all of these things. Generally speaking, when things get to the point of the Board of Supervisors, it just gets banged home with the gavel. So that's what we anticipate happening in tomorrow's meeting. So great news for Jay Johnson, Josh Simpson, and Josh Jordan over there with LSU baseball. It's a Jay Johnson, Josh Jordan, Josh Simpson. It's a lot of J's over there, but they're all getting paid pretty well. So good news for all of them. All right, we heard from another Jay. Josh Thompson, who's on LSU's offensive line, their right guard. I thought some of the things he had to say yesterday were really, really interesting. And so we'll hear some of the sound from that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Love Swing Easy Golf Club. You're going to see me there a lot. You should be there a lot. It's a great place to hang out. They've got comfortable, modern seating, big television that you can control. You want to watch football game tonight, you want to watch football on Sunday, you want to watch football on Saturday, do so in a climate-controlled area with the buddies and then play on the golf simulator. I love the functionality of the golf simulator with some of the greatest courses in the world. Play St. Andrews. You can play Pebble Beach. You can play Bethpage Black or TPC Sawgrass. You can play TPC New Orleans. It's loaded up on the simulator. And hit those shots. Bring your clubs. Bring some beers. And just have a good time hanging out. There are memberships that are available. You can get those for corporate or for yourself. If you want to work on your game, you can do that there as well. But focus on the hanging out part because the weekend's coming up. It is an awesome place to go hit some golf shots, have a couple cold beers, hang out with the friends. Go see him. Segan, right there at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club. Check it out online at swingeasygcbr.com. Swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, the National Football League will crank things up this evening. It'll be the Eagles and the Cowboys. I didn't look this up at all. Jacob Hester said this morning that it's on Peacock. It may be, it may not be. If it's not, it's his fault. If it is, I heard it from him. You can watch it there. I have no idea.
It is.
Great to hear. It's on Peacock. Eagles and the Cowboys from the link up there in Philly. So I'll give you my NFL picks at the end of the hour. We'll kind of slam them in there. I'm not going to spend a ton of time breaking down every team in the NFL. Just going to give you some division picks and a Super Bowl pick before they crank things up on this Thursday evening. But Josh Thompson met with the media yesterday. 4 LSU Tigers did so. It was Josh Thompson. It was Mansour Delane. It was Caden Durham. And it was somebody else on defense. West Weeks was the other player that met with the media. So I've got an interesting story up right now on the Louisiana Sports.net on the defense and how those guys kind of felt like they played in the opener. Going to have a column up tomorrow about the team's mindset entering a non-conference game after a monster opener. So I'll have that on the website tomorrow. But Thompson talked about a number of different things, and I thought had a lot of interesting things to say. Let's start with what they saw on the tape when they watched it as an offensive line against a really, really good defensive line from Clemson.
I think a lot of it was just little technique things, right? Crossing over, two gaps, whatever it was. It's individualized from guy to guy, right? There's certain things that everybody can work on, everyone needs to work on. And, having those 2 or 3 things in a week, right? Something Coach Sloan said to us earlier this week, and I thought it was great. Every week you want to pick 2 to 3 things. 2 to 3 things that you can really, really focus on in practice. And whatever it may be, you're not going to lose doing those 2 or 3 things because that's where you need to grow. And so I think that's what's been, really big for us going forward.
I thought it was a good effort from the offensive line. The Pro Football Focus grades are a little bit rough in the run game, and the tackles weren't great, it says, in the passing game, but they held up. And LSU's game plan was such that they weren't exposed and asked to do too much. But I asked Josh Thompson, how important is the run game to what y'all are trying to do on offense? Because it's something we talked about all August long. It's something that's been a focal point around here since last year where they couldn't run the ball. And I just wanted to get a sense from one of the guys in the trenches there, how important it is for them to find a way to establish that presence.
It's huge. Our mentality as an offensive line is we want to establish that run. We want to be physical. We want to be dominant in the run game. And, we want to impose our will. That's our focal point. That's something that we really want to stick on, throughout the course of the season, because that opens up things for the pass game. That makes it easier for us. That makes it easier for the receivers. That just helps our offense in general. But it also sets a tone for us, as a unit, as an offensive line, and as an offense.
That to me is said just like he covers the team. That is exactly what we've been preaching since August 1. They may not lead the country in rushing, but if they can set the tone and they can open some lanes and make teams have to respect that running game, what they've got at quarterback, what they've got at receiver is just going to take over games against most defenses. So that's spoken exactly like what the fans have said, what the media has said, and that's a guy who's in the wars and knows exactly what is going on there. Now, they didn't run the ball great in August. I said that. Everyone who's out there said that. It was tough, but we got a glimpse into what they were working against on Saturday because you saw that Clemson ran the ball 20 times for 31 yards. So maybe, just maybe, they are okay at run blocking. They were just running up against a buzzsaw. And I asked Josh Thompson about that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw, they're a phenomenal defense, right? And iron sharpens iron. It's a tale as old as time. I think if you look at us from spring to now, I mean, you can see the growth. And it's one of the coolest things, right? There's so much talent in this room, this offensive line room. And, the track that we're on and our ability to keep growing with that focus, I mean, I think it's great. And I think that defense is a really big part of, why we've been able to improve so much.
I think personally that working against that defense for a month got LSU's offense ready for Saturday. I said that I was hopeful of that last week. I wrote about it, LouisianaSports.net, and I think it manifested because you saw how good the defense was, and I think LSU was prepared for how good Clemson's defense was. And again, I think Clemson's defense is good. I really do. I think Peter Woods is a star. I think TJ Parker is a problem. I think Woodaz at running back is really a linebacker is really tough. I think Terrell is one of the better corners in the ACC. I think they're good, and I thought LSU was ready for it. Now, shifting a little bit, this is Josh Thompson talking about his journey to LSU from the spring and to now and what kind of his goals are. But we start with coming in after his semester was over and getting ready for spring ball. And this is what he had to say about that.
Obviously I was dual enrolled, and that was wrong. But I graduated, I got in, and it was really great. The coaching staff, Adam Kleffner, Coach Brad, I mean, those guys were really, really great in helping me pick up that offense super quickly. And I think I picked up most of it, before the spring was over. I think it was, honestly, I did not have too much trouble picking up the offense. I think it was a very smooth process, and obviously there were still things to learn and still things to grow on, and I'm still learning every single day. But from that initial aspect of getting everything conceptually, one of the greatest things about, this is the third offense I've had to learn, in college, and you learn that it's all the same concepts with different names. That's what it is.
So he's up to speed, and that was a question because he comes in, when LSU started spring ball last year, Josh Thompson was enrolled at Northwestern taking classes. He couldn't be at Baton Rouge because Northwestern's on the quarter system, and he was late arriving. He missed like a week and a half of LSU spring workouts. And so he had to come in and catch it on the fly. Yes, they are in the spring, they're going to be able to slow some things down for you, but they're not going to compromise the entire offensive installation just because this one guy is 2 weeks late. They're going to keep rolling, and he's just going to have to catch up very quickly. And it sounds like he did that, which is, a big credit to him. The question is, why LSU? Josh Thompson had options. He's a Big Ten starter at Northwestern, had some quality PFF grades against Ohio State and Michigan, and you had options. And the question is, why would you go to LSU?
Coach Davis, he said to me that he was going to help me become an NFL player and that we were going to go win a national championship. And those were two things that I wanted more than anything, right? I mean, that's my goal. That's been my goal since I was a kid. And, that national championship more than anything is, just to even picture it, it's got to be the coolest thing ever. And, that's something that I want to touch.
That's saying a lot. That is saying a lot. And I think you never know what you're going to get in player interviews. You never know who's comfortable in front of the mic and who's not. Trust me, nobody was putting a microphone in front of my face when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. Nobody. So it's a different thing than a lot of folks haven't dealt with. You never know who's going to be coachable from the sense that they're just going to give you cliche after cliche. Garrett Nussmeier is very obviously a very bright guy. He's a very personable guy. You see him cutting up with his teammates. You see him dancing on the field. You see he's obviously a very personal guy, well adjusted. He's engaged to be married. He's a fifth-year college player. He gets in front of the microphone. You don't get anything. You just don't. I'm thrilled he's the quarterback of my football team. When he talks, I barely can listen. And you never know when that's going to happen too. But you never know when somebody's going to say something that is emotionally driven. And in that case, Josh Thompson's not afraid to sit there and say, I want to win the national championship. And some schools, some players, some teams are hesitant to do that. And I get the sense that everybody on that team is centrally focused on doing the things that are necessary to get to that ultimate goal. And while that ultimate goal is still there, and it very much is for this team, you get such a committed workforce, you get such a unified team, such a positive vibe. All that stuff is so good. I think about the 2023 LSU baseball team, where Jay Johnson has told the story a lot. Like, sat him down first day of practice, like, what do y'all want to do? What do y'all want to be? And Glenn Cruz stood up and said, I want to win the national championship. He's like, okay, do you want to do that? Like, here's what we have to do. And there are some coaches that don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I very seriously doubt that Nick Saban at any point in a August team meeting started talking about winning national championships. But I do know that there are some programs that have discussions about that. And like, you can talk to these guys and they'll tell you that it's 1-0 every week. And I've got a column coming up. I'll spoil the column for you a little bit on LouisianaSports.net, and I'll probably talk about it on tomorrow's show. I'm going to write about what I heard from the players yesterday about preparing for week 2. It's not Clemson, it's Louisiana Tech. And those are two very different things. And the answers they gave were pretty stout. It was, I don't care who we're playing. We got a lot of work to do. And whoever is playing us next, like, it's their problem. Like, I think that the focus this team has every week and going 1-0 and the maturity, because you brought in so many older players from the transfer portal who are not wide-eyed and who've been through the wars and have won a lot of games and have lost a lot of games and know that this is their last chance, whether that's to get on an NFL draft board or to win a national championship or to do whatever, play in the playoff. The maturity level on this roster, I think, is pretty strong. And in the same way, and I talked yesterday to Wes Weeks about this, and this will be a quote that I put in my column for tomorrow. He said last year they probably didn't bring a lot of energy against Nicholls because you were just gone on the road, high-profile opener, Sunday night, Las Vegas, LSU, USC, and you blew a lead late. So you come back and you're playing an FCS school in Nicholls, and like, where's your motivation? Where's your commitment level? Where's your energy? And it wasn't good enough. And because of that, you were in a dogfight with Nicholls late in the second quarter. You were giving up 65-yard touchdown runs to some running back named Guggenheim. Like, that's the energy level that you got from LSU in week 2. And it didn't matter because they were playing Nicholls. And they got hot, and they beat South Carolina after falling down 17-0, and they beat Ole Miss in a crazy overtime game. There was a ton of drama. And it wasn't like it derailed the whole season. But I think it, may have spoken to the fabric of the team that they couldn't regroup well enough. And we'll see what happens to this team if and when they lose their first game. But right now, after that win, the quotes I got yesterday suggest these guys are going to be locked in. They're going to be ready to roll. And I think Josh Thompson's a really big part of that as a first-year player in LSU on the offensive front. I liked what I heard from the players yesterday. I'll write about it on tomorrow's show. That's Josh Thompson sound from yesterday. Got one segment left to go on this Thursday. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. I'll give you my NFL picks when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Tell you about it every single Thursday. If you're looking for the highest quality in beef, you can find it just outside of Baton Rouge. It's right there in Ethel, 30-minute drive. We had burgers from Sagrera Farms back on Sunday. Came home, got them out, got the seasoning on them, threw them on the grill, and once again, Alyssa, who loves burgers, like, these are the best burgers you have made. We've had them twice now since Sean dropped off some of the product at the house, and it is a game changer to have that kind of beef on hand in the refrigerator. You know the quality can be up and down when you head and grab your stuff for the week to cook at home. Make sure that doesn't happen. Get the highest quality, an amazing consistency, and prime Angus beef from my friends at Sagrera Farms. I give you Sean's cell phone number every single week. Just give him a call. Say, I'd like to come out to the farm and check some things out. He would love to have you up there. Sean's phone number, 225, obviously, because they're right here in Baton Rouge, 719-1723. 719-1723. Give him a call. Say, hey, I'm not happy with the pricing. I'm not happy with the quality of what I buy week in, week out. I'd like to change things up. Check out Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
closing out hour number 1 here. We've got a lot of discussions to have in hour number 2. We'll chat coming up in 10 minutes with Luke Johnson from Saints Camp. Chris Blair going to be with us 2:15. Dixon McMakin, new PA voice of Tiger Stadium in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center at 2:30. So a lot of guests coming your way in the second hour. But I wanted to get my NFL picks on the record. We'll save these in the old doc so I can look like an idiot come January. But I'll throw them out there here on this 4th of September. In the NFC North, give me the Packers. I like Jordan Love. I like Josh Jacobs a lot. Their offensive line needs to play a little bit better, but I think the Lions losing 2 coordinators could take a step back there. So I will take the Packers in the NFC North. In the NFC South, I'll take the Bucs, chalky, but I think they're clearly the best organization going in that division right now. So give me Tampa in the South. In the East, I'm not going to go against Philly. I love Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, but I'm going to go with Philly. That roster is just awesome. The offensive line is awesome. The quarterback knows what he's doing. Defense is great. Give me the Eagles in the NFC East. In the NFC West, I'll take the Rams. I like the coach. The quarterback is old and he's a little banged up, but I think that's an organization that knows what they're doing as well. They draft extremely well. So I will take the Rams in the West as the wild cards. I will take the Lions. I will take the Commanders. And I will take the 49ers making the playoffs of the NFC. Packers, Bucks, Eagles, Rams, Lions, Commanders, and 49ers. Going over to the AFC. In the North, I don't trust the Bengals defense still. Even with Hendrickson re-signed, he was on the team last year and they wanted to get on defense, so I can't trust them too much. I'll take the Ravens in the AFC North. In the AFC South, I love what the Texans are. I love what DeMeco Ryans is. I think that they've got a potential star at quarterback there. Nico Collins has been as good a receiver as there is that nobody really talks about. So I'll take the Texans in the South. I'll take the Bills in the AFC East. I think that's very chalky as well. And give me the Sean Payton Broncos in the AFC West. I realize that's ridiculous to pick against Mahomes and the Chiefs. That defense is still going to be awesome, but eventually they're not going to win the division. People said that, I guess, about Brady and didn't lose it for a while. Give me the Broncos to win the AFC West. I'll take the Bengals, Chiefs, and Chargers as the wild card teams in the AFC. So that's Ravens, Texans, Bills, and Broncos as the division winners. Bengals, Chiefs, and Chargers as the wild card teams. In the Super Bowl, give me the Ravens to win the Super Bowl over the Packers from the NFC. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it from an NFL perspective. I don't know that any of that is earth-shattering outside of maybe the Chiefs not winning their division, but that's what I'm looking at. Beck, how dumb is that collection of selections?
Well, it doesn't sound dumb right now, but I'm sure there will be plenty of them that will be by the end of the season. The Chiefs, it's actually not that far-fetched to me. I mean, Patrick Mahomes...
They won every game by 3 last year.
Yeah, I would assume that Patrick Mahomes is probably a little better than he was last year, but Travis Kelce is probably... Old. Yeah, he's probably had his... he's probably not going to have any more amazing seasons. Like last year is probably going to be the norm as far as he goes. So... and then Rashee Rice is out for 6 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I can see the Chiefs not winning the division.
Think I got them all right?
No, I don't think so.
How do you feel about the Commanders? A lot of my buddies think the Commanders are going to take a slide here. They were winning a lot. They were like the Chiefs, and they were losing. They were winning every one-score game last year.
They're going to have a very tough schedule as compared to last year. Last year, they played a lot of really bad quarterbacks. This year, they're going to have to play some good quarterbacks. I don't see them winning as many games as they did last year.
How are we feeling about the Bengals? Not going to start 1-4?
I mean, at this point, the last few seasons, it's just for some reason, it just keeps happening. Joe Burrow keeps getting off the slow start. So, I don't know. I think your bias is coming out there for the Bengals.
I mean, look, I don't trust Rodgers and the Steelers. I certainly don't trust the Browns. Then you look at the AFC teams that I might be doubting, like Miami. Do I feel like they're going to be great?
I think the Ravens are going to be really good.
I always like the Ravens just because it's a safe thing to always like the Ravens.
Yeah, it is.
And the Packers pick is a little bit bold. It's not just a Michael Parsons thing. He certainly helps. But I think Love is good. I think LaFleur is good. I have Josh Jacobs on the old fantasy team, so I'm going to need a lot of rushing yards from that outfit.
That'll be nice.
But Eagles are the chalk. And would it surprise me if they were in the Super Bowl? No. They're an amazing organization with a quarterback and an offensive line that just functions really, really well. And a lot of weapons on that team as well. I didn't even mention Saquon Barkley, which is probably very stupid of me not to mention. But
it is pretty stupid.
That's what I'll go with from an NFC perspective in the Super Bowl. So those are NFL picks. We'll save them at the dock, and will make fun of me coming up in January. All right, busy first hour. We talked a lot about LSU football to start the show. Wide receiver rotation. Talked about Josh Thompson, this offensive line. You can catch those segments and Hunt on LSU. LSU baseball coaches getting a raise. That's a good thing for them. In the second hour, 3 straight guests. Luke Johnson on the Saints. Chris Blair talking Tigers. Coaches show coming up tonight. And Dixon McMakin making his Tiger Stadium PA debut on Saturday. Talk about all that. Hour 2.
The Hunt Palmer Show.